and they asked him to leave. He was heartbroken. It wasn't fair, but he didn't complain. He and my mother went out and started Lakewood. They didn't have a big building. They didn't have a former compact center. They found an old, rundown feed store. Had holes in the floor, dirty, smelly. Compared to my father, compared to my grandfather, I have it so much easier. Yes, I've faced opposition, but nobody's asked me to leave the church. If you're thinking about it, forget it. My father worked too hard. My grandfather sacrificed too much for me to get discouraged and settle where I am. The last 10 years of my father's life, he didn't feel healthy. Many Sundays, he would come to church dizzy from the blood pressure medicine that he took. He hadn't slept the night before, and I would always go see him before the service. And, Daddy, do you want a break today? We can find somebody else to minister. That never entered his mind. He preached whether he felt like it or not. When he went to be with the Lord and I took over, he put me 40 years down the road. He left us that 8,000 seat auditorium debt free. When we needed to make an initial payment to secure the compact center, the money was in the bank. I thought, thank you, Daddy. If he could do it in his day, not feeling well, not having resources growing up, not having people support him, how much more should I be able to do? In the same way, your relatives have sacrificed greatly for you to be where you are. They endured hardships, worked when they didn't feel like it, overcame things that should have stopped them. They paid a high price. Now do your part and honor them by taking new ground. Our attitude should be, I am not going to let these light afflictions stop me. I am not going to live passive and just coast on what's been passed down to me. I'm going to stretch to new levels. I'm going to make my loved ones proud. Well, Joel, I don't come from a godly heritage. My relatives, my parents, they didn't believe. You wouldn't be where you are if somebody in your family line didn't honor God. None of us got to where we are on our own. Somebody prayed for you. Somebody made sacrifices. Somebody lived a life of integrity. It may have been a great-great-great-grandfather you never met, but he gave, he served, he helped others, he mentored young men. Or a grandmother that lived 100 years ago. You never heard her name, but she prayed for her family line. She taught Sunday school. She was an example to those young ladies. Now you're reaping from the seeds they've sown. You didn't get here by accident. In the scripture, God showed favor to one of David's relatives 305 years after David was gone. His relative made a mistake. He was in trouble. God said, in effect, I'm going to show you mercy. I'm going to turn this around, not for your sake, but for your relative David's sake. I realized I'm reaping a harvest from seeds that I didn't plant. I'm blessed because my grandfather honored God. I'm where I am in part because my parents kept God first place. There are people that you've never met that have made your life easier. They put you further down the road. Now they're cheering you on. The way you honor them is by going further, by taking new ground. Think of these heroes of faith. They didn't have a Bible like we do today. They didn't have promises in writing to stand on like we can. They didn't know how it was all going to turn out, yet they chose to believe. They made it through the desert without a podcast encouraging them, without a grocery store. They made it to the promised land without GPS, without Siri, without airplanes. They did it without the conveniences that we have. Imagine what you and I can do. This is our day to set a new standard. Here's the key. The heroes of faith are not just in the Bible. I am looking at heroes of faith. If the Bible was written today, your name could be in there. You've overcome obstacles that look too big. Like David, you've defeated giants. Like the lady that was healed after 18 years, some of you, God has healed you and given you your life back. My mother would be in the heroes of faith. Cancer said that she was done in 1981. Medical science said she didn't have a chance. But God said, I have the final say. You will live and not die. She's a living example of God's goodness. My challenge to you is become a hero of faith. Do something great. Leave your mark. Let your talent shine. Overcome what seems impossible. You may not see how it can happen, but you have generations cheering you on. You have saints that you've read about, thought how amazing they are, how faithful, how dedicated. Those same saints are calling your name, saying, dream big, keep stretching, keep believing. We want to read about you. Imagine every morning if you received a personal text from Abraham, from David, from Moses, Ruth, Esther, Noah. When you woke up, there was a message from them saying how they believe in you, how you are well able. That would do something to you. It'd put a spring in your step. It would cause you to have more confidence. Those people carry some weight. I've received a few texts from some influential people, but if Abraham were to text me, I would run, tell Victoria, you're not going to believe it. I just got a text from Abraham. What did he say? He said he believes in me, that he's cheering me on. That would help me to do better that day. I wouldn't get discouraged because I had opposition. I wouldn't give up because I had a setback. Can I tell you, it's not just Abraham. All of heaven is cheering for you. The grandstands are packed with people who believe in you. People that have been where you are and made it through. You may feel like you're surrounded by opposition. Everything has come against you. I see Elisha step out of the grandstands and say, been there, done that. One night, this enemy army surrounded me and my assistant. Tens of thousands of horses and chariots. My assistant panicked. He thought we were done. But when I looked out through my eyes of faith, I could see a vast host of the heavenly armies surrounding all those enemy forces. Elisha would tell you, stay in faith. That addiction may look like it has you surrounded. The truth is, God has it surrounded. That sickness, the debt, the depression may be surrounding you, but Elisha is cheering you on, saying, don't worry, God is surrounding what's surrounding you. Or maybe you prayed for God to turn a situation around, but it didn't happen. Thoughts tell you it's too late. It's never going to work out. Why didn't God answer your prayer?